Welcome in, everybody, to Inside the Borough. We are back with another special edition. Robbie LaStella, Kevin Fielder, and we are joined by the star duo new to the FAU football team, quarterback Caden Veltkamp, wide receiver Easton Messer. Best friends, guys. Thank you for hopping on with us. How's it going?
Good. How about you?
Oh, man, I'm doing good. I'm glad to have you guys on here. I've seen you both around at the basketball games, which I think is awesome. But I kind of want to start out asking you guys both on like a personal level. You're both Kentucky guys, and now you're down here in Boca Raton. I think it's freezing right now in Kentucky, so plus for you guys. But what's it been like on a personal level so far? Is it first time playing football out of the state of Kentucky, and how's it been?
Go ahead. In terms of like playing somewhere like not like I played road games outside of the state of Kentucky, but like in terms of being here year round outside of the state, it's my first time since middle school. Yeah, being outside the state. So.
Yeah, I mean, same as him. Obviously, road games. We played some other places. I've actually never really thought about that, but I guess for this being like this is my first time, my home base being outside of Kentucky, but it's been nice, like you said. It's freezing up there in Kentucky, so running around on the field out here in Florida, it's a lot warmer right now than we're used to during winter.
Yeah, I'm in Kansas, and it might even be colder here than it is in Kentucky.
Probably.
But you guys obviously played in the Boca Bowl this year, and a few weeks later, you guys are both transferring to FAU. Did you have any sort of thought that when that game was going on that there was even a chance that you'd be going to FAU, or was that just sheer coincidence that happened the way that it did? Excuse me.
Yeah, I think we both had an idea that it was a possibility. We both had a prior relationship with Coach Kit and had been talking to him before the bowl game. So, and him and some of the other coaches were actually on the sideline, like for our pregame warmups and stuff. So, it was a little different for sure, but we had an idea before we played in that game.
What were the conversations like between both of you guys? Whoever wants to take the lead on that, but I know, Easton, you were there in 2022 when Kitley was there, and Caden, I'm assuming, no?
No, I actually wasn't. We were both in the same class. So.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. So what were those conversations like, though, between you two? And you know, was it kind of like, yeah, we could both go different places, but if we're together, we could really do something crazy?
Yeah, that's pretty much actually exactly how it went. For me, because I entered the portal first, I told him that, obviously he's making his own decisions and that was its own thing. But like we had talked about before that obviously like if we both go in, it would be like great. It would be perfect if we could both find a spot where we both fit in. And if not, you obviously have to do what's individually best for both of us. But that's kind of when this opportunity arose. It was kind of perfect fit for both of us and what both of us were looking for. So it made it even more exciting to be able to do it together.
And Easton, for you, kind of sort of, you caught passes from Austin Reed, and then you caught passes from Caden Veltkamp. Your numbers went up. What kind of worked for you with Caden at quarterback, and in your game, where do you think you grew last year?
I think I grew in terms of just being able to step up and take a bigger role. I mean, the year before with Austin, I was technically playing behind Malachi Corley, who obviously went the third, fourth round. So great player. So really it was just ability to be on the field a little bit more. They're both great quarterbacks.
Caden, for you, obviously, Coach Helton and Coach Kitley run very similar offenses, almost down basically to the same thing at times. How different is the sort of offenses and some of the verbiage, or is it effectively the same thing for you playing quarterback in terms of language and what each coach is using?
Well, I wouldn't say that their offenses are the same. When Coach Kitley got to Western Kentucky, he kind of put his offense in, and Coach Helton let him do that. And then we kind of kept the air raid tree with Arbuckle the year after Kitley left, and then with Drew Hollingshead the next year. So my verbiage the verbiage didn't change, but the offense changed a little from coordinator to coordinator when I was at Western Kentucky, and then with Coach Friend this past year, changed even more. But we still had like our base terms that stayed like the same. So that part's been the same. But in terms of the way that they call it, like they're just different coaches, so they're going to call different plays in certain situations and do their own thing. But for the most part, the base like install offense from my true freshman year is what I'm back in now.
And then Easton, for you, with playing behind Malachi Corley, a guy who was able to go to the NFL and impact the game as a rookie. What did you learn from him that first year that you were able to take when you got the opportunity to play a little bit more?
Yeah, so I've actually known Malachi since high school. We trained with the same trainer, so it was pretty cool to not follow him to Western, but see what he was doing actually in Coach Kitley's offense and say like, okay, I think I'm a similar enough player. Like I think I can do the same stuff. But Malachi's a super physical player and he's great with the ball in his hand. So I wouldn't say like we're the same type of player, but to be able to pick apart some of his stuff and see what I can implement into my game was nice. Like, how he runs his routes physically. He's a great blocker. So like that's something I always try to mirror from him.
You guys seem pretty tight. I can hear it. We've heard it in other interviews. Where did that kind of come from? Because we see wide receivers and quarterbacks all the time. That doesn't mean they're best friends. Was there an off the field moment, or was it just you guys clicking during spring game practices and whatnot that led to you two becoming close friends?
I think at first it was just hanging out. Like when I first got to Western, 'cause he early enrolled. So I remember like when I first got to Western Kentucky, it was like the first day, and we're both Kentucky boys. Like we have some mutual friends, whatever. So I remember he was just like, "Yo, come down and chill." Like after I got moved in, whatever. Hung out, started kicking it, and then from there started hanging out like as friends, whatever. And then you get into the football stuff, and we're both freshmen, so we're both down with like the 3s and the 4s, but making plays with him throwing me the ball, and then going and watching the film together, and it kind of just sprouted doing everything together, and that's how it's been for the past couple of years.
When you guys come to a new school, I feel like a lot of this is probably put on you, Caden, as a quarterback, but the team has a lot of new pieces. You guys got a bond. I've seen you guys out at Boomers. I've seen you at the beach. How have you guys kind of gone about getting some of that connectivity you guys have together with the rest of the team?
Just hanging out with guys outside of football. Everybody has their job, but in my personal opinion, to have a good team, have good like team camaraderie, like you have to do stuff outside of football and have relationships with people. And so just like I said, hanging out with people outside of football, not just like Boomers and the beach, like those are team events that are mandatory for us to go to, and they were fun. But doing other things like hanging out in each other's apartment or going to get food and stuff like that, that's just part of being on a team nowadays.
You mentioned, I know Boomers was team mandated, but did you guys hit the go-kart track, and who won, Caden or Easton?
We did hit the go-kart track, and I definitely won. He wanted a couple rematches, but I definitely got the best of him more than I didn't.
Caden, sort of uniquely, you are the guy who was born and raised in Bowling Green, played high school football in Bowling Green, and then commits to Western Kentucky. How much pride did it give you to know that you were the local kid representing Western Kentucky and leading them to bowl game wins and to the bowl games that you were able to lead them to?
It meant a lot to me, just because I moved to Bowling Green my freshman year of high school, and there's a great sense of community in that city, and I have a lot of people there that have my back and that have supported me in this journey. So being there and being able to play for my dad and right next to home, and my mom's watching every game at every game. That meant a lot to me. And to be able to do what I was able to do there meant a lot. And it was super hard to leave there just because I had so many people there and such a good community around me. But I think that's a testament to Coach Kitley as well, because I wanted to play for him so badly that I was willing to leave, all that stuff behind to come play for him here.
You mentioned your dad on staff. How is he like a coach? To you in particular, is he a little bit harder on you, or does he treat you the same way?
I think a lot of dads that are coaches take different approaches, and mine definitely took the approach of like, I'm not going to talk to him at all unless he's in my office like after the day's over. He wasn't even my coach like in the weight room. His top assistant worked with quarterbacks, so like we were doing our own thing, and then like team runs, he never said anything to me as long as I'm not in the back and screwing up, that kind of thing. To be honest, I only remember one time that he really like got after me, and I was doing some stupid little freshman stuff like on the field. Like I think I didn't finish through a line, and I started like taunting some teammates, and he didn't like that, so he ripped me in front of the whole team. But other than that, he didn't talk to me unless I came into his office after practice or something, or like once we were off the field.
So is he, as a strength coach, is he one of those like really loud vocal guys, or is he a little bit more laid back, reserved? Because I feel like covering college football for as long as I have, there's two kind of strength coaches. There's the really loud and vocal ones, and then there's the ones who are probably a little bit more reserved behind the scenes, but they're still able to get loud and if they need to, if you're sort of acting out of line.
Yeah, I think he's a mix of both. When the team's doing what they're supposed to do, and he doesn't need to say anything, he doesn't say too much. But when he notices stuff or a team's not doing what they're supposed to do, then I think that's when he gets fiery. And then on game day, for sure, like I could hear him on the field because he's yelling. He was an offensive lineman in college, so he's always yelling at the offensive line. He's like, "Finish!" And so you can hear him when you're on the field, but he never really talked to me. And he, like I said, he's vocal during the games, like when guys are coming off, telling him good job, that type of thing. But I think he's vocal when he needs to be, and he's laid back and lets his assistants do their thing when that's the right thing.
In terms of the staff you guys are with now, you mentioned your familiarity with Coach Kitley, but there's a lot of younger coaches on this staff, and to me that kind of seems like a good thing for a team, especially in college. What's it been like kind of getting to know the staff as a whole? And am I kind of right that having that young kind of coach base is better to connect with the players?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of young coaches on the staff. I got two older guys coaching me in my room, but two really good older guys that I'm really fortunate enough to learn from. Obviously, Chris Carter's a Hall of Famer, literally one of the greatest to ever do it. So to be able to take some things from him, and he'll drop some little gold pieces every once in a while that I can really hang on to. So I try to really listen to everything he says. And then Coach DJ McCarthy, who's been pretty much at every level, coached everything from special teams to obviously receivers. And then they both train NFL dudes like on the side during the summers or their off season. So two really great guys taking care of me in my room. But yeah, I think we actually have two dudes that were with us at Western Kentucky, one who was a GA and another one who was a senior when we were a freshman, coaching up the DBs, trying to let them in on our little secrets. But yeah.
Caden, you have Zach obviously is OC, quarterback coach, and head coach, all three. But I believe Trent Vasey's in there as well, helping in the background. So what's your experience been with the staff so far?
It's been good so far. Just getting to know everybody and that kind of thing. Just being out on the field with everybody. It's been good. I I have no bad things to say, and it's been a good transition. And being with Coach Vasey and being in the meetings with him has been awesome too. He's been a good leader in there, and it's easy to have conversations with him because he played football too. So he definitely knows what he's doing in there.
Easton, I'm a big special teams guy, so you mentioning special teams sort of lit a light bulb in my head. But obviously, I know you were an all-conference kick returner, and you returned kicks for 2 years. How much pride did you take in sort of being able to impact the game on that side of the ball, and being able to, be an all-conference player there along with at wide receiver when you were?
I loved it. I think I was able to take a cool road to be able to see the impact of special teams. As a freshman, true freshman, I didn't play much in my redshirt freshman year. I was a starter on all 4 special teams going into the year, but I wasn't a returner. I played front line on kick return. For a couple of games, I was a jammer on punt return, gunner on punt, ran down on kickoff. So then a couple games later, they asked me to return a little bit. I was a returner at high school. I like returning. But it was a cool way to be able to see how hard it is being the front line on kick return. So I would never get mad at anybody for missing their blocks and stuff like that because I understood. So it was cool, and I plan to do the same here if that's what they asked me to do on both kick return and punt return. And yeah, just affect the game in any way I can and just help my team win.
You mentioned starting at all different spots, gunner, jammer, all those. Was there a favorite of those in particular where you're like, man, this is fun? Or were those a little bit more difficult?
Yeah, I actually really like the punt return jammer. Funny enough, I don't know why. We ran what our special teams coordinator called highway technique, and it was you just kind of weave them in and out, and I don't know, it came natural, it came easy to me, so I was able to run with that and kind of help the other guys. I don't know why it came so easy to me, but it did.
And I want to transition into some of your teammates. Easton, I heard on another podcast you talk about Jay-Sean. You got leaders coming back in there, and Jay-Sean and BJ. How much is that they kind of help you adjust to Paradise a little bit, and what's the room like overall in the wide receiver room?
Yeah, Platt in particular. He's a great player. He's going to be really good for us this year. I tell everyone his stats don't really speak for how good he is and the player he's going to be. BJ, so much he's still coming back from injury, so a lot of the time we've been working and practicing. He's doing his rehab stuff, so I haven't been able to see him play as much or have the conversations that I've had with Platt with him. But yeah, I know those are going to be 2 of the other main guys, and then the room looks solid. We got some older guys, we got some younger guys. I'm just trying to help everyone understand the offense and kind of understand him and let them know what he expects and in certain situations and things like that. Try to help him out.
Caden, I want to ask you about the offensive line. Obviously, a couple new pieces in there, a couple returning pieces. How's it been getting to know the guys up front? And is there anyone that's kind of been standing out so far as well? This dude's like a mammoth of a human being on this offensive line.
It's been good so far. I think we have some good players in that room, and we're developing. And I think there's going to be competition at every spot. Just like there is on the whole team pretty much. But I'm excited for that group, and we're learning and learning how to work together, and we see certain things, and I like to check a lot, so them just being on the same page as me, and I asked them at the end of practice today, is there anything I can do to help y'all in terms of what we're doing right now? Can I be louder? Is there certain calls you want me to make at certain times? That kind of thing. So just having those conversations and developing, continuing to develop my relationship with all of them. I think that they like me a lot, and I like them a lot through the first couple months that I've been here. And, I think I did a podcast with Daughtry a couple weeks ago. and I love him. He's been awesome. Alex Akavage has been here for like 9 years, so he's kind of brought us in, both me and Easton, like and kind of shown us the ropes. Like, hey, this is how we do things here. This is how it's been. Like, we've hung out with Alex a little bit outside of football as well. And then we got a lot of young guys that are inexperienced, other than those two, and so a lot of guys that are going to get opportunities to play, and that room works really hard. So as long as they continue to work hard and continue to get better, I think we're going to be fine.
I just want to jump in here before Kevin. We had Daughtry in media last year, right when we came here, and I remember he just lit up the room. He was like, "I love football," and so that's funny. He said that he's one of the funniest guys I've come across.
Yeah.
Alex has also probably been in college for 9 years. That seems accurate to me. No, but a little non-football question for you two. You go from Big Red to Owlsley. Who's better, and why is it Owlsley?
I got a good relationship with Big Red, so I haven't met Owlsley yet, but once I meet him, I can answer that question a little better. He's gonna have to put on a good performance though, because like I said, me and Big Red, we're pretty tight. So I don't know about him though.
I will say the Memphis basketball game we went to, I saw Owlsley walking around with a big fat gold chain on, and I know Big Red doesn't walk around with that, so that was pretty cool.
So is Big Red as crazy as he seems? Because Big Red seems like a crazy mascot.
Yeah, he's pretty crazy. He's got his little weird dance moves where he like shakes his stomach around, but. Gonna be interested to see if Owlsley got anything like. Doesn't Owlsley have like a little brother too or something?
Oh,
yes.
I saw him walking around at the basketball game. Big Red didn't have a little brother, so that's different too.
What would you guys say? I mean, you've only been here so like a little bit, but what's probably been the biggest difference for you guys down here compared to Kentucky, outside of the weather? Because obviously it's probably 30 degrees right there.
I think just managing the lifestyle outside of football. There's a lot to do down here. I mean, you could be doing something every day after ball, and that's not really like how we live. We're more of we go to ball, we do our academics, and we go home, we hang out, and
or go to the beach,
or we go to the beach. So that's kind of how we've lived in the past, and there's always something going on. There's always someone that's like, hey, like this is going on, let's do this, and there wasn't as much of that at Western Kentucky and in Bowling Green. It was more of like, hey, we're gonna go here, we're gonna be at this apartment, we're gonna hang out with these people, and then we're gonna go home. So I think just managing the lifestyle outside of football and continuing to keep the main thing, that's been the biggest difference.
Would you say that that side of it, the beach side of it, the other side of it, yeah, it can kind of be a distraction if you let it, but I've heard from other guys that it actually really helps the mental side of the game, having stuff to do on the side. Is that the case, or is it just football all the time?
No, I completely agree. It's definitely the beach in particular is definitely a spot that you can go and kind of like let things go and not like let your mind go and like mentally relax. And if you use it in that point, then it's great. But you gotta find the balance, because like I was actually telling him, because we talk about all of this stuff, like the first couple of weeks here, like it was like I felt like I was rushing things and getting out of the facility faster than usual because we're going to hit the beach at 1:00 on Tuesday, when if I was in Bowling Green and it was cold and I can't do that, I'm probably catching extra balls on the jugs and getting some extra recovery. So I think it was good that I was able to realize that early on. But you definitely have to be careful and use it as a spot to get away, not in a good way, not in a bad way, rushing out of the facility.
I want to ask about strength coach B. Lee, Brandon Lee. We heard a lot of good things about Coach Joey and his past tenure. Haven't got a chance to talk to Brandon Lee yet, but what have you guys' relationship been like with him? And I feel like the strength coach is always the one guy that has that first opportunity to really set that culture. Is that the case?
Absolutely. Love B. Lee. Love everything he's been doing, what his staff has been doing. You know, we got here a little early before we started, and we actually worked out with him a couple times before he got started, and just love his message and everything he's about. And you know, like you said, him and his staff, they kind of set the culture to start just with the list and the team runs before we actually started doing some football stuff. And you know, we're really appreciative of him and his staff and what they've been doing for us.
I want to shift gears a little bit to the offense itself. Easton, I heard in that other interview I listened that you want to set every record, whether it's FAU, top 5 in the country. From what you know about this offense, why is the slot, you know, somewhere where that goal is achievable for you? What is it about the Kitley offense that makes it special?
Well, one, the slot's on the field like 90% of the time, so it gives me a lot of time on the field. And then two, it's just like kind of everything runs through the slot, whether it's like, you know, little screens or, I mean, even like blocking, right? Like you got to be able to block well too, because if not, you're not going to be on the field. But everything runs through the slot, and it's definitely a slot friendly offense. And you know, I say top 5 in the country because I mean that's pretty much the pace that the slots for his offense have been on. So it's really not crazy if I can just, you know, have an average year and do pretty much what every slot that, you know, is good. It's definitely good. It's not like they have bad players out there running around for them, but if I can just do what they did, I should be right on that pace. So I think that's definitely doable for me, and I got a great quarterback. So.
And Caden, why is this offense the right place for you to expand your game? I mean, we've seen what Kitley's offenses do for quarterbacks, but to you personally, why is this the right spot?
Because I have complete control of the offense, and you know, I think, and I did for the most part at Western Kentucky too. But just being here and being able to develop under Coach Kit, you know, that was something that was part of the reason I went to Western Kentucky, and I didn't get the opportunity to actually play for him there. But that was one of my reasons, and so the opportunity to develop here, and I mean, what quarterback doesn't want to throw the ball 45 times a game? So, you know, excited for that piece of it for sure. And, you know, the game is in the quarterback's hands always. And, you know, I'm a firm believer in, you know, the decisions that I make determine whether we win or lose. So, you know, I'm excited for that piece and the control of the entire offense and that kind of thing. And just being the head of the snake and a leader, and being able to lead this group of guys, you know, I'm really excited for it.
Winding down here, I don't want to make you guys miss the beach. It looks like it's about to rain today, but you know, what are you trying to say during this spring ball period coming up for either you guys, both of you guys? What are you trying to accomplish here in spring the most?
Just continuing to develop relationships with guys, building trust with the offensive linemen, and continuing to work as a unit. And then just continuing to be on the same page with the receivers, tight ends, and backs, and just continuing to grow those relationships as well. You know, spring ball is not always, you know, super flashy. It's about, you know, learning, right, especially right now, learning the offense and, you know, understanding how guys run certain routes and that kind of thing. And so just continuing to develop that aspect of ball as well as the relationships.
Yeah, I'm just excited to get out there and compete with the new guys, and you know, running around in PRPs or football school, whatever we call it. It's fun, but it doesn't have that like real football feel without pads on. So I'm excited to get out there and go against a defense that I haven't gone against before, rather than a defense I've been going against for 3 years. So yeah, that's really what I'm most excited for.
And last one for me, the conversation around FAU football last season was culture, and now the culture has to be rebuilt. Obviously, you guys are going to be a part of that, but what would you say the most important factor of, you know, rebuilding that culture is? And do you guys have that right now, or are you still working to attain that, build it?
Like I said, for the spring, just having relationships with people. You know, there were guys on the team that were like, yeah, we didn't know certain guys on the team last year. We didn't talk to guys ever. And, I'm a very introverted person off the field. I'm not a big talker, but, you can't be that, in the locker room. You got to be able to talk to people and build relationships with guys, whether they're the star player going to projected first rounder or they're a walk-on that has never played a snap. And, you have to have relationships with everybody, and, their status on the field doesn't have any influence on, whether you talk to them or not, and, me personally, like when I hear stories like that, I think that's weird. Like, they're your teammate too, no matter who they are and where they are on the depth chart. Like, I think that's a big part of culture, just being able to have relationships with everybody on the team. And, you shouldn't be able to go into a locker room and be like, hey, like, do you have a good relationship with the quarterback? And someone's like, oh, like, no, like, I've never talked to that guy before. Like, he's just like, we're just on the same team. I think that's a bad thing for a team if your quarterback doesn't know everybody. So just continue to build those relationships on the team. I think that's the biggest thing for culture. And then, once you have relationships with guys, then it's easy to lead because they respect you and they're like, I have a great relationship with him. So if he says this, like I respect that, and I'm gonna hear what he has to say. If you don't have those relationships with people, then you're not gonna get a lot of respect out of them.
Caden, you mentioned you're an introvert. Thank you so much for hopping on. You answered all of our questions. Same to you, Easton. We really appreciate it. We'll let you get back to it. Like I said, it looks like it's getting gray, so you guys might want to get to the beach as soon as possible. Thank you guys once again, and we'll talk soon once spring ball starts up.
Sounds good. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Take care. I was Caden Veltkamp, Easton Messer of FAU football. Thanks, guys, once again. Kevin, with each interview that we keep doing for football, I feel like, I'm getting excited for the start of football season. His last answer there kind of gave me that relationships over everything mantra that basketball has been using. And we see how it's working out for basketball. They've battled through some tough times, and they're really clicking right now. I'm hoping, there's going to be no tough times for football, but you know what? I like that approach for trying to rebuild the culture. Doesn't matter how talented you are, you got to be close with each other.
Yeah, I mean, football is halfly won on just having good vibes, right? Like there is this like weird subsection of like being really good and super talented and being able to sort of overcome everything. And then there's the other group of teams that are talented, and FAU certainly has talent. They've had talent for the last few years. But if the culture's bad and the vibes in the locker room are bad, man, you're going to play poorly on the football field, right? Like there is so much to be said about just like being, like liking to be around each other, right? Like wanting to be around each other. And I think we look at some of FAU's other sports teams, they want to play with each other. They want to be around each other, right? Like they like being around each other, and doesn't feel like a chore every time you have to come in the facility and, practice with these guys or hang out afterwards. Right. And like, that matters, man. Like every team that's doing well at FAU right now is super talented, right? Like you have to still have talent, but talent will only take you so far. I think we've seen that in college basketball this year with some other teams, but like, if you have the combination of talent and just good vibes, right? Like, and this is not a very scientific way to explain it, but like if you have good vibes, you will probably play better on the field because you want to win for each other, right? Like it doesn't feel like a chore to win for each other.
No. And you mentioned that the teams at FAU that like to be around each other. Let's talk in FAU softball. I mean, this team is full of vibes. They've now been top 25 at some point during the past 2 years, and this season has just begun. They did exactly what a team that has good vibes and talent should be doing. They lost a couple games. It's going to happen. But then they come out yesterday and they beat the heck out of FIU 5-1. It wasn't, after Louisville on Sunday, that game was a little bit unfortunate because they had 11 hits to Louisville's 5, but they weren't able to push in any runners in scoring position. But you mentioned that. I've covered that team now for 2 years, and I have not had a single moment where I don't think they were going crazy. Yesterday, a girl put a bunt down. I don't remember who. it might have been Corinne Daymeyer, but again, I'm not. Oh no, it was Kylie Shelton, and she goes crazy going down the line after the bunt got down, and it's just little things like that make this team fun to watch, and it's fun for them too. I mean, it's simple things. It's softball, so it's a little different. You're not going to be, the cheers you make on the sideline in football aren't going to make as much of a difference, but in softball it does, and they're going crazy 24/7 anytime a game's going on, and it's really worked, and I think that's why softball is having success right now. And it's the same for baseball too. Baseball, they swept Delaware in the opening series. They go out, they beat Miami. I believe it was on Tuesday, and that game was a battle. They had to come back in that one. They were dead to rights all game. And then they strike for 2 in the late innings and go on to win that one. And so Coach Mack has been around forever. He knows what it needs to really click, and he's got the guys now where it's a combination of everything like we talked about: locker room, talent, young players, old players. I think baseball's in for a good year. We know softball's in for a good year. Hoops, as we talked about, by the time you guys will see this, we will know the decision of Wichita State FAU. Hopefully it ends in their 6th straight victory, but regardless, it's been a very good stretch recently for FAU basketball. They battled back against Temple this weekend. They did something what I wanted them to do a lot earlier in the season, and when their three-point shot isn't falling, they were 2 of 16 in the first half. They cut that number down to 8 in the second half, attacked the basket. Temple was in foul trouble, and they won the game. They're doing different things, whether it's offensively, defensively, and they're making in-game adjustments. John Jacobs is really proving his coaching abilities. You never know what a head coach is going to be able to do, and whether, a lot of people were concerned early on because, there were certain situations where he didn't call a timeout, whatnot, whatever. I hope after these last couple of games, you guys have lost that concern and really seen the in-game adjustments. The timeout usage has been good. I mean, we know his philosophy on timeouts is similar to Dusty's at this point. If you don't like it, there's a million coaches in college basketball and basketball across the world do it the same way. So take it up with them. But I really think that basketball is clicking right now, again, because of the vibes and the talent is all finally coming together. What do you think, Kevin?
I think the biggest thing, and first of all, because I want to mention this about the timeouts, man, you got to let players play through things. Like, you just got to let them work through things. And I know that's not what everyone wants because they think timeouts fix everything. Man, you call a timeout and you risk everything falling apart. And if you've got a team that is playing well over the course of 5-6 games, let them work through things. Let them figure it out. And the thing that I liked about the Temple game in particular, outside of what you mentioned, where they just didn't keep settling for the bad 3-pointers that weren't falling, right? And they weren't falling. And I feel like earlier in the year, they would have just kept trying to shoot themselves out of the slump. And I tell this all the time when talking about guys who are struggling in college football or college basketball, It's like, you can't shoot yourself out of the slump. You got to find other ways to impact the game. And I mean, the perfect example, Trey Carroll had 4 blocks against Temple, and they found other ways to win that game. And that's the biggest sign that this team is different from probably December or January when they were sort of struggling and they would pick up wins, but then they would lose a game where you felt like they should have won. Is I think everyone's finding other ways to impact the game, right? And for a guy like Trey Carroll in particular, when his shot's not falling, and his shot was falling, he just wasn't getting to his spots, and I think he had some foul trouble throughout the game, and so it was a little challenging. But finding other ways to make plays, because truth be told, a possession where the opposing team doesn't score is just as good as you scoring. It has the same impact on the score. Now, it's better when you don't allow a score and you score on the other end, which they did a few times at the end of the game, right? But I think what we're seeing about this year's team, and it's very similar to what I thought about the Dusty May team when they made it to the NCAA tournament. And I don't think this is a team that's going to make it to the Final Four this year. So anyone who's trying to clip something to gotcha when they don't win the national championship or whatever, this is probably not a Final Four team. Could it be an NCAA tournament team? All I'm going to say is get to Arlington or get to Fort Worth, and we'll see what they look like. But this is a team where they have 5 or 6 guys capable of beating you any night. And 3 games ago, might have been Nico Moretti and Baba Miller who made plays. Last game, it was Caleb Glenn who was lights out down the stretch, or it was Leland Walker who had a couple of really tough shots down the stretch. that's the biggest difference, is that they have now found ways that other guys can make plays. And that's the encouraging thing, because every coach will tell you, and I think John Jacobs has said this a few times, right? Like, it doesn't matter how you start. Non-conference play is effectively preseason if you're not good enough to make the NCAA tournament from there. All that matters is you're playing your best basketball heading into March. You're playing whatever your version of best basketball is. And K-State, or not K-State, FAU still has a few games left to sort of prove that that's the case, right? But even if they lose to Wichita State, which, like, hopefully they don't. I would love if they beat Wichita State. But, like, regardless of what happens in that Wichita State game and heading into these final games of this month, they're playing their best basketball. They've given themselves a chance to be what is it in the AAC championship? You have to be a top 4 seed.
4 seed, you get a bye. 2 seed, double bye.
So, like, they are effectively playing themselves into being a potential 4 seed or 5 seed. And, like, that's the encouraging thing, because also the thing about these tournaments is you don't want to be a team that has to play 5 games in 5 days. It's very difficult to win a tournament if you've got to play 5 games in 5 days. And so if you have a break in there, like, I feel a lot better about this team than when we were on the show in mid-January talking about how, well, they just need to find out some things. They just need to figure it out. They figured it out. Like, and I know that it may be a little bit too late for it to matter. We'll see. But they have figured it out.
Yeah, and it's never out of the cards in the AAC. Memphis wants to act all high and mighty. Well, unfortunately, they just lost to Wichita, things can happen. They run a very, very aggressive defense. FAU wasn't able to beat the full court press. Wichita was, and Memphis's shots weren't falling late. Wichita wins. Things can happen, especially in a tournament setting. As Kevin mentioned, we want to get FAU into a top 4 seed. That would really help. As crazy as it sounds, its top 2 is not out of the question, because FAU has rubber matches against both North Texas and UAB, who currently sit ahead of them in the rankings. Tulane has an effective 1-game advantage right now. Same amount of losses. Tulane has 9 wins in conference. FAU has 8, and Tulane has the 1-game advantage against FAU. So need Tulane to drop 2. They almost collapsed late against ECU yesterday. Didn't happen. So rooting, if you're an FAU fan, for Tulane to lose 2, and if FAU beats North Texas and UAB in head-to-heads, FAU would have the better overall record than UAB, which would be the tiebreaker there, because a 1-1 conference split. And North Texas would have the better record, so FAU would need them to drop 2 in a row, or not in a row, but down the stretch as well. But most likely it's a top 4 seed for FAU if they can make a push here and Tulane drops 1 or 2. It's not out of the cards, and even if they get a 5 seed, we saw Temple make a run last year, I believe out of a 5 or 6 hole. They get out of having to go to Denton as long as they're not in the bottom 4, which no one wants to go to Denton. Sorry, we've already been to Denton once this season. Don't need to go there again, especially in a neutral site. I feel like a super pit neutral site game with 10 fans in attendance is not a good atmosphere for basketball. I feel
like Denton just brings bad vibes to FAU, so let's avoid Denton at all costs.
Yeah, it's looking likely right now that they don't go there, and that unless, utter collapse happens, they should be all right. Seinfeld game, you're going to see this after, but I want to give a shout out to the marketing department. That obviously the success FAU is having right now is important, but the marketing department doing things like that gets the Athletic to tweet about it. It gets Mid-Major Madness to tweet about it. It gets these, the way FAU basketball was in every household name over the past 2 years. Things like that plus success gets it back there. So shout out FAU marketing. Hopefully see you guys at the game tonight. If I don't, oh well. And Memphis on Sunday. That's a big one. If FAU goes in there with 6 wins in a row, who knows what happens. Memphis is asleep at the wheel. They know they got an at-large bid, and FAU could go in there and steal one. That would be huge.
You want to talk about must-win? That game feels like an early must-win for effectively everything, because, man, I think you win that game and everything starts to change for you.
All of a sudden, FAU is back on the if they beat Memphis, John Rothstein might be forced to give John Jacobs a slogan. I don't know. He's not a big Penny fan, but you know what? We'll see. My vote is John Jacobs, family over everything, but that's just me. We'll see. And yeah, FA's back in action next week. We'll talk to you again before then, but. I believe, North Texas next Thursday at home. That's another big one. Memphis and North Texas back-to-back, and then USF in Tampa following Sunday. So be there, FAU, USF next Sunday. That's a big one, but we'll talk to you again before then. Folks, thank you so much for taking a listen to today's episode of Inside the Borough. Caden Veltkamp, Easton Messer, huge thanks to them for hopping on. We will be back next week, potentially another football guest. Who knows? We'll keep you updated right on the FAU Owl's Nest social media platforms. For Kevin Fielder, Caden Veltkamp, Easton Messer, I'm Robbie Listella. We'll see you next time.